The train station was a bustling place, alive with the clatter of wheels, the chatter of travelers, and the occasional whistle that pierced the air. But amidst the noise and movement, there was a quiet presence that many regulars had grown accustomed to. A dog with a scruffy golden coat and soulful brown eyes sat on the edge of the platform, staring at the tracks as if waiting for something, or someone. This was Max. Around his neck, he wore a leather collar that had seen better days. Its edges were frayed and its once polished surface was now weathered and cracked. But engraved on the small brass tag was a name, Max, and a promise that he refused to forget. Max had once been the happiest dog in the world. He belonged to a man named Jacob, a kind-hearted farmer who lived in a small village just a few miles away from the train station. Jacob and Max were inseparable. From sunrise to sunset, they worked together on the fields, shared meals under the old oak tree, and spent quiet evenings by the fireplace. Jacob often said that Max wasn't just a dog, he was family. One autumn day everything changed. Jacob received a letter that carried both hope and fear. It was an offer to work in the city, a chance to earn enough money to save the farm, which had been struggling for years. But it meant leaving Max behind at least for a little while. Max, Jacob said, kneeling down and holding the dog's face in his hands. I'll be back soon, boy. I promise. You just wait for me, okay? Jacob's voice was steady, but his eyes glistened with unshed tears. Max wagged his tail, trusting the man he loved more than anything in the world. That evening, Jacob packed a small bag and walked with Max to the train station. As the train pulled away, Max sat on the platform, his eyes fixed on the figure of Jacob waving from the window. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months, but Jacob did not return. Max didn't understand why. He only knew that the train had taken Jacob away and that this was the place where he had to wait. And so, every day Max would walk to the station and take his spot by the edge of the platform. He would watch the trains come and go, sniffing the air for any trace of Jacob's scent. The station workers took notice of him almost immediately. At first they tried to shoo him away, worried he might get hurt or disturb the passengers. But Max's quiet determination and gentle demeanor soon won them over. The station master, an older man named Frank, started bringing him scraps of food. A young ticket seller, Emily, knitted a small blanket for him to lie on during the colder months. Even the passengers began to recognize him, some stopping to pet him or leave him treats. He's waiting for someone, Frank would explain to curious onlookers. His master. Poor thing. As the seasons changed, so did the rhythm of the station. New faces replaced old ones and the world outside seemed to move on. But Max remained. Through scorching summers, torrential rains, and freezing winters, he kept his vigil. His golden coat grew dull, and his movements became slower with age, but his resolve never wavered. Sometimes on quiet nights, Frank would sit beside Max and talk to him. "You remind me of my old dog, Buddy," he'd say, his voice tinged with nostalgia. "He waited for me too every day by the gate. Dogs like you, Max, you've got hearts bigger than us humans." Max would tilt his head, listening intently as if he understood every word. One day, a journalist passing through the station noticed Max. She was intrigued by his story and decided to write an article about him. The piece, titled "The Dog Who Waits," was published in a local newspaper and quickly gained attention. Soon, people from nearby towns started visiting the station just to see Max. They brought him gifts, took photos, and shared his story on social media. To them, Max became a symbol of loyalty and hope. But Max didn't care about the attention. For him, the world began and ended with Jacob. Every train that arrived was a possibility, and every face that stepped onto the platform was a moment of anticipation. But as the years went by, even Max's boundless hope began to dim. One chilly evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the station lights flickered on, Max lay curled up on his blanket. Frank sat beside him, stroking his fur. "You're tired, aren't you, boy?" Frank said softly. Max's tail thumped weakly in response. "I wish I could tell you he's coming back. I really do." Frank's words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken truths. He knew what Max didn't, that Jacob was unlikely to return. The years had been too long, the silence too deep. But how could he explain that to a heart as faithful as Max's? That night, as Max drifted off to sleep, he dreamed of the farm. He saw Jacob walking through the fields, calling his name, his voice filled with warmth and love. Max ran to him, his heart soaring, the weight of years falling away. It was a dream he had often, but this time it felt different. It felt like goodbye. Jacob had returned to the village after years of struggling in the city. He had sent letters, but they never reached the station. When he finally saved enough money to come back, he found the farm abandoned and learned about Max from the townsfolk. Standing before the statue of Max, Jacob knelt and placed his hand on the cold stone. "I'm so sorry, Max," he whispered, his voice breaking. "You waited for me all this time and I let you down." He stayed there for hours, tears falling as he remembered the dog who had been his closest friend. Around Jacob's neck hung a small silver chain, and on it was a matching brass tag engraved with Max's name. It was the only thing he had left of their time together. Years passed, but the story of Max lived on. Travelers who visited the station would stop by the statue, some leaving tokens, others simply pausing to reflect. And though Max was no longer there, his spirit lingered, carried in the hearts of those who heard his story. In the end, the collar around his neck never faded, just as his love for Jacob never did. It became a symbol, not just of loyalty but of the hope and love that can endure, even in the face of loss. Max may have waited in vain, but he reminded everyone who knew his story that love is never wasted, even when it seems unanswered. And so, the dog who waited by the train station became more than a memory. He became a legend, his collar a testament to the bonds that time and distance could never break. Someone who loves their motivated animal friend, don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring stories. Have you ever had a pet who seemed to know just what you needed even when you couldn't say it, or maybe a time when your pet did something that seemed almost miraculous? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Who knows, maybe I'll feature your story in a future video. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay tuned for more incredible tales that just might change the way you see the world. See you in the next one.